Hi, Amy. Welcome to the AI Diaries. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Kate. It's good to see you again.
I have Amy Stevens here. She is the Senior Vice President of Member Experience at GreenState. Welcome, Amy.
Thanks. I'm really excited to talk to you about this today. It's like the best topic. There's articles everywhere. And now to think that we're going to be the ones that are introducing a podcast about it. I love being part of the
Yeah.
content myself.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk to you because you've dabbled in it and put in a few different areas, and your perspective is really unique because you are in such a highly regulated
Mhm.
space that member
Mhm.
experience is critical and trust is critical. So I always like to start off with the question, you've lived through digital banking, chat, mobile, all these different channels. Um, does AI feel like a true shift in the way that operations are happening, or is it another trend, do you think?
Mm. Yeah, interesting. Good question. I would say that I think of specifically in the contact center area, which is part of the team that I work with. I've always believed that it's consisted of, people and process and technology. And technology continued to evolve for contact centers, whether it was in fact chat or SMS or email, all those things in addition to having phone calls, right, in the contact center. And so now I just look at AI as being another technology enabler, right? It
Yeah,
augments the experience that your members or customers have, and it augments the people doing it. So it's
yeah,
of better service. I
yeah,
like it. I like being in being able to take charge of those areas
yeah,
where you can deploy it.
yeah. And I think we may have talked about this last time, but there's a little bit of keeping up with the Joneses and FOMO going on with AI. Do you see some leaders rushing into AI almost because there's this pressure to adopt and implement?
Mhm. I think everyone wants to try something. And so that's been our position too. I literally say, oftentimes we're going to crawl, walk, and run, and then find out that I'm already, in comparison to others, at the run stage. That
Yeah,
these two small applications is actually beyond what other people have done. And so I am walking, and then I'm about to run in my next roadmap project. So I think you have to just be willing to start and put your guardrails in and do something small and easy. Maybe it's just, co-pilot for your meetings.
right.
Maybe it's helping you write some template emails that you use in correspondence. So just start in order to understand what the benefit is, and don't be scared. But don't feel like you have to
Yeah.
go to the run phase first.
Yeah. And you are ahead as far as the financial industry because historically, industries like healthcare and maybe finance are slower to adopt for obvious reasons. I am curious because, you oversee interactions omni-channel across all channels, and a lot of AI vendors will claim to be omni-channel. Are you finding that to be the case, or does AI behave and look different depending on the channel?
I would say the latter, actually. And you really do need to develop it. To be honest, just like a phone interaction is different than a chat interaction,
Yeah.
what you decide to do and say with your bot, with your agent that is AI is different in that channel of phone than it is what you would do um, in chat or email or something else. And part of it's just you're trying to meet the member or the customer using that channel in the way that they are. So if you call in and we're talking to you with our agent AI and answering your questions, we have to be in tune to your tone. so that
Right.
we can tell when it's time to escalate, that the sentiment is part of what's being read, not just the dialogue, not just the context of, I want to talk to you about a mortgage loan and I want to know what your rates are. Once they're like escalated in their voice,
Yeah.
that's the automatic time that you transfer to a real agent. So
Yeah.
it's because of that sentiment is going to be different than what you experience on a chat, because you might not necessarily have that
Right.
tone to go with. And that's why you almost have to design a different solution for your
Yeah.
different channels.
That's interesting. Yeah, so you have the real-time sentiment analysis. Sometimes there's post-call sentiment analysis. But I would say with AI, especially an AI agent or something like that, that's critical because I mean, especially customers that are used to maybe calling and getting a tier one person at, you know, their first contact. Not everybody wants to talk to a bot, but then some people do prefer a bot. So being able to have that proactive ability to go, okay, this person is, you know, just they're ready to talk to a human. Let's forward them on versus somebody getting irritated, they hang up, they call back, they email maybe. I think that that's really important. And one of the best parts of having an AI agent is the ability to escalate proactively.
Not just the contacts that I've transferred to you about, the dialogue that we had, I've also given you a sentiment score. So now you have to
Yeah.
tread lightly with this individual because they're upset
Yeah.
about something. And so
Wow.
again, it's an enabler, right? You got all the contacts that happened, they helped thus far, and here's their mood too, by the way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great tool. Again, it's not replacing,
Yeah.
it's augmenting.
Yeah. And for agents, that's incredibly just a relief, and it feels so reassuring to know because agents never really know, am I about to answer the phone to an angry customer, to a customer that is cursing? You never know. So being able to get that heads up, like, hey, this, may need to be escalated. They're upset right now. Then they can be prepared versus being taken off guard. So that's a great example of a smooth AI to agent or human handoff.
Mm, I like it. We love it. It really does help us.
Yeah. So another question I like to ask is the reality check, in the sense, what part of the AI rollout, I know you've done a couple of them, ended up being maybe more of an operational lift than expected? Like, what do maybe vendors or people oversimplify that later it's like, oh, wow, I didn't expect this to be so intensive?
Mhm. One of the applications that we have in the contact center also is um, some AI scoring for quality assurance, which is great. A 13
Yeah,
minute call can be scored in 30 seconds. Excellent. Then what happens is that the people doing the quality are now focused on the trends, on the coaching, on the actions
yeah,
associated with it. So the work is done by AI, but the people are the ones that are utilizing that output in order to help other people with that information. So the lift was, now we have to have multiple scoring models. Like, this is the scoring
right.
model to use when a member is calling about a wire. It's more complex, it's high risk. This is the scoring model to use
Interesting.
associated with, yeah, it's because really that context has to be evaluated differently based on that complexity of that dialogue.
Yeah.
So it seems like, oh yeah, it's just going to score everything. It can't just score
Wow.
everything. You've got to build in those templates and say, use this for this type of call.
Yeah.
And then you still have the great output that, like I said, you have all the data and the trends there.
Yeah.
It didn't replace people that were doing QA. Now the QA people are actually working on trends. You develop classes, you do more coaching. And so I think that it's really elevating the skill where you use your people
Yeah.
too. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So that's so fascinating. So with before it was handed to AI, did you have separate scorecards, or do you still have separate scorecards for agents as well, depending on the intent and interaction?
We did, and we do.
Yeah.
That's why the lift was kind of significant, was that
Yeah.
we would have just like, yes, no, this is this type of call, so it applies or it doesn't apply. But with the bot, because you wanted so many more scored, and you wanted the ones that had the lower sentiment scored, you wanted to understand where the pain points and the friction points were. We really had to be deliberate about building those templates out.
Yeah. Wow, that's a really good thing for leaders to think about and factor in, because that's definitely something that wouldn't be top of mind when you're thinking of
Just
an
let's
implementation.
turn on QM and go. Record
Yeah.
everything, score everything. But unless you give it, it's like giving prompts to any AI, right? You're not just going to say quality to your, co-pilot or whatever you're using. You've got to be specific about what your expectation is. And that's what
Yeah.
that was about, was specific about what they should be scoring.
Wow. So I had mentioned in the beginning, credit union is so trust-based and people-based, and of course, it's the financial industry. Because of that, at least the way AI is now and in the foreseen future, are there any places in the customer journey that you are like, we should never automate those, or this doesn't make sense to insert AI here because this is such a core trust-based interaction or part of the journey?
It's a good question too. I will say that we're still a little bit risk averse when it comes to PII information. And so
Yeah.
when when you can authenticate an individual and you're just going to be giving them low risk information, maybe it's the balance, but you're not letting them transact, right? Then it's okay to introduce AI to just say, what's my balance? And then it tells it back, goes into the core system, repeats that.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now, when I'm actually going to be transferring money out or doing a wire or something that has a greater dollar amount risk, increasing their debit card balance or whatever that may be, you kind of have to insert that individual, in addition to maybe using
Yeah.
your bot initially up front. But then once the risk situation happens, you've passed along from the information, and now we have to insert the human. The other thing that I would say too is, financial, as you said, is a sensitive industry. It really, there is emotion attached to an individual's financial well-being. And there are situations that we just wouldn't want to go into an AI scenario because we want to insert that human empathy and heart. So
Yeah.
AI can, write your email, can build your content, but it can't really mean what you're saying. It
Yeah.
can't really, authenticate what an individual's feelings are, can't
Yeah.
necessarily be empathetic without you prompting it. And, if there's a deceased person and now the
Wow.
beneficiaries calling on their assets, trying to
Wow.
figure that out, like that is a human interaction. And not that the follow-up email couldn't be a template that was written through AI, but in order to use the correct tones, in order to create the
Yeah.
empathetic scenario, those are those kind of things that we will say our humans are best in that. It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
AI still doesn't augment the experience either before or after the fact, but insert the human when in fact that heart is needed. And that's what I always go back to, is that the human is where the heart is.
Yeah, I love that. The human is where the heart is. I'm going to write that down. Yeah, I mean, next to healthcare, I would say finance is one of the most emotional and sensitive industries, especially like what you're talking about. I mean, I don't think a lot of people think of that when somebody passes, somebody has to control their finances and pick up those threads. And it's such a hard time as is, having to talk to a bot and be like, oh my gosh, sometimes you just want someone to go, oh my gosh, that's so difficult. I'm sorry you're going through that. How can I make this easier?
Exactly, exactly. And you can program, a bot to say all of those things. But what you really want is the human to be able to express it in the right tone, in the right way to start that interaction.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's really impactful and really heavy, but that's what's also really unique and great about your operation specifically, because you found a way to still maintain that human element, human experience where it really matters, but then you're not scared to try out AI in other areas. And another thing that you've done exceptionally well is getting buy-in from your team and being able to infuse AI into the culture without making people feel like, wow, they're just, they're trying to replace me with tech, or they didn't even care to ask what, we need or what we want. What would you say are like, a few things to keep in mind when somebody is implementing AI, when they're trying to introduce it to their team? You have to get buy-in from the team, or else you're going to have angry employees. You're going to have attrition. I mean, it backfires majorly.
I mean, Kate, I think you probably know from your experience too that any technology project or any new implementation really is equally stakeholder management and change management as it is project management. So actually getting the tools in place has to be matched with identifying who all your stakeholders are, actually having on the team people that would be
Yeah.
naysayers and apprehensive about it, and then being available to them to show and demonstrate early on. So you have your executive sponsor, right? This is Amy's excited about it. She wants to show you some really cool
Yeah.
things. Talk about it, talk about it. Then as we make small wins, that there's no negative impact to you. As a matter of fact, it was a positive impact to you.
Yeah.
Talk about it again. I mean, they say that an individual needs to hear something 6 times or 7
Yeah.
times in order
Yeah.
to really absorb that information. And so if you continue to talk about it and keep that forefront in your dialogue, you tend to start to shift the culture and people come along.
Yeah.
And I think in doing those things that are enablers, right? In our NPS area where we're measuring member satisfaction, we are using it internally to allow for the people who own that business operation, or a branch manager, division of a certain area, can see through Copilot where all of their pain points were. So instead of 20 pages of member feedback, it's read and it's summarized, and now it's got that for you. And so there was the
Yeah.
benefit. They only saved time. There wasn't necessarily somebody
Yeah.
taking away. They're still doing the actions that it's being recommended to do. And so even the analyst, our MX analyst, he would rather, instead of just reporting on it, he would rather have the data formulated good for him so that he can deliver it more succinctly, he can present it, he can work with teams to improve their processes. And so if you start to, again, this part of the story, shift people towards, we're not taking away your role. We're helping you be more equipped, more talented in your role because we've automated those other
Yeah.
things that could be. And we're probably time consuming and cumbersome.
Yeah. Yeah. Like an easy one that I think of is the after call time or notes. It's, you know, that takes up a lot of time, and also there's so much variation. Maybe one person takes hyper detailed notes and another person just writes bullet points. So being able to have the same consistent richness,
Summary of it
quality
all.
of notes, and then the agent being able to take the next interaction. And that's an example of being like, oh wow, okay, that just automatically shaved off one of the most annoying or time consuming parts of my role.
That is so true. That is so true. Because you're trying to summarize, right? What happened during the call? Am I getting all these
Yeah.
details right? Instead, the AI's listen to it all, so it can summarize it
Yeah.
for you. It can, give a descriptor and
Yeah.
tag that call with the right category. And so those are the kind of things that we've done with the phone system and Salesforce in order to keep that going.
Yeah.
And another cool thing in Salesforce, two things that again, we're getting into that walk and maybe even run phase, but we're we're aware of that next best action as it relates to the next best product that you might be eligible for. Maybe you need a new auto loan, maybe you need a new credit card because we can see you're paying to other people with a higher interest rate. So that next best action. And now we're introducing more of next issue avoidance. So be forward thinking about the fact that, Kate, your loan is going to be done in 3 months. Here's a couple things to look forward to as it relates to your loan payoff, your title, all those kind of things. So again, you would have otherwise had to call in 3 months. Now, because you called to talk about you got locked out of your online banking, let me also use this as an opportunity to make your life better. And it reduces you having to call back 3 months later.
Yeah, especially for people who maybe forget or they're busy, or it's like, oh gosh, another phone call I have to make. Just having those proactive you know information, and it's another touch point, so they're feeling more emotionally connected to the customer journey, being like, wow, it's almost like they read my mind. I needed this information.
Yes,
And
that's it, right? Now you feel better, like, oh my gosh, they knew all that about me and they were kind enough to tell me about it. So
yeah
that's where that comes into play. I mean, everyone has a CRM. It's like, how do you maximize what you know about
yeah
your members
yeah
and be thinking about how to best service them at the time of that contact? And AI
yeah
helps to do it.
yeah that makes me think of two questions. So you're it sounds like you were able to, propose what you wanted to implement and get the buy-in, from stakeholders in order to do this. Not everybody has that. And I've heard a lot of where top level leadership is like, get AI, and then the, contact center leader, CX leader, member experience leader is like, okay, but we need to budget for it. We need to prioritize it. We need to get everybody with the same priority so we can all align. And there's this disconnect where, because the other thing that you don't think about is, or maybe, some people don't think about is, it's not only just CX and operations and, IT that needs to be involved. You have, all these other teams that need buy-in. And what happens when you start this project and then it turns out it's like, IT's like, I didn't factor in to have a 3-month heavy lift, so this is going to have to pause. And then it just, had those been thought out in the beginning, maybe that could have been avoided. So with this type of new technology, do you feel like a company really needs to be innovation forward and prioritize those kind of things in order for AI to be successful?
I do. And it's, even though financial is very risk averse industry, it absolutely is. We're going to protect our members' information to the nth degree, always. However, the average consumer is experiencing this kind of lift and this experience with AI and speed to service and other industries. So, you are our CEO actually calls it the Uberization of financial services. When you're looking at your phone, right? You're looking at your phone and you're seeing that the car is almost there. It's 2 minutes away. You know your driver's name. What type of vehicle it is and what the plate number
Wow.
is. So it's like those things. The way you get Amazon delivered to your steps, sometimes in the very same day. So
Yeah.
those kind of experiences and all of the apps that you have on your phone are setting a standard that consumers are becoming accustomed to. And so, because
Yes.
of that, you almost have to move forward if you're going to be
Yeah.
sustaining yourself long term, because there is going to be a certain bar, the standard that needs to be met, and it includes some AI. And I
Yeah.
would go so far as to say that when you look at your strategic, plan, what you're going to need to see is where those things enable your overall efficiency. Because if you can continue to grow in ways that doesn't equate to adding a lot of headcount, in order to be successful, and you can use technology and that kind of environment to get you there, you're going to be able to achieve those
Yeah.
growth numbers.
Yeah. And then you won't be rushing to try to keep up, because then you can do that crawl, walk, run approach without being
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, we have to hit the ground running and we should have done it yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, I also am curious, is there a KPI or a metric or some sort of outcome that you didn't expect to improve or you didn't expect to be impacted that was, whether positively or negatively?
Well, what's really interesting is that our North Star is on that member, our North Star experience as well. And so if those two people are happy, I mean, NPS or overall satisfaction often seems like it's a soft KPI, but that ability to have a good experience actually retains that member, then they promote for you. That's what NPS is measuring, right?
Yeah.
It's the cheapest form of marketing you can get.
Yeah.
So not only do you retain them because they had a good experience, but they start telling others about the good experience that they
Yeah.
had as well. And so the metric, I would say, isn't that much different than what your North Star are today. Do you start to see your efficiency numbers become even better, that you're
Yeah.
spending less on operations and you're earning more? Yes, that is probably a natural outcome, and that's what you really want to. But I would still say to keep your North Star as your members, and then that employee engagement, take care of those employees, and
Yeah.
because their skill set is going to need to be even higher. If the telephony solution that you've got in place can give out balances and take payments, what are those people doing instead? And so you have to invest in
Yeah.
those people, train them up, and do some of those higher risk activities.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, NPS is critical, CSAT is critical. I know me personally, if I have a terrible customer experience, I tell friends and family about it. If I have a great customer experience, I tell friends and family about it. And
You're the kind of
it's the
member we
difference.
want, Kate.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's the difference between I'm going to stay with this credit union, or I'm going to stay with this company long term, and oh my gosh, I need to find somebody else. I can't stand this. And that goes a long way, because like one poor NPS or one poor CSAT, okay. But those start stacking up, word gets around. I mean, we live
Mhm.
in a time where reviews and ratings are available to everybody. So consumers control the narrative, not brands or companies anymore.
Well, and you know what's really interesting when you say that is that I do think that is a bit of an evolution, right? That you have to continue to say, what are those expectations? And so meet and or exceed them. And even though financial institutions are generally very risk averse, our executive leadership team has really gotten good at understanding what is our risk tolerance, what can we
Yeah.
actually allow to have happen, and have those guardrails in place because we are measuring it. We do have a pulse on it all the time. And then it's okay as an organization to say, hey, we made a mistake about this. That seems a little bit too risky. We're going to pull back. Or you know
Yeah.
what? That pilot worked out great.
Yeah.
This is our new standard going forward. So again, it's a bit of an evolution, but you have to be that kind of nimble organization and being willing to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Do you find that having pilots or proof of concepts is critical, especially when you're trying to be risk averse? Because you want it to work, you think it's going to work, but it could not work. You never know.
And then you just got to work with your IT to unroll it all. No, I think a pilot is always a great idea. And back to what I said about, you talk up front. Your executive sponsor is saying this and this and this, and then you talk mid-project and you let them know about what those benefits are again and again. And actually when you're talking at the end, it's maybe about the success during that pilot. So we've,
Yeah.
proven the concept here. And
Yeah.
and then that can kind of get more people who still maybe weren't on board because they see the pilot
Yeah.
results. Or, like I said, you have to be willing to say, you know what, we made a mistake, but at least we
Yeah.
only did it as a pilot. We don't have to
Yeah.
unprogram the entire system.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And more vendors are proactively offering that, um, which gives you peace of mind and also is a great indicator of confidence in the tool, because if a tool really is powerful and it's, does what a vendor or, a software company says it's going to do, then yeah, we're confident enough. Sure, try it for 6 months. We know it's going to work, so we know you're going to extend. But if somebody's trying to lock you in to a 3-year contract without any sort of testing, there's something to be said for that as well. And it makes you wonder, I don't know, I don't know about this. That's a big commitment.
Right. From your work that you've got to take a look at all of your vendors and their features and their functionality. And you're absolutely right. If you've got a standout vendor that says, we're gonna proof of concept, you guys try it for 90 days, no charge, and then we'll re-up once. I mean,
Yeah.
that person knows they've got a known trusted tool
Yeah.
and they're willing. And so I say try it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's where the CX industry is getting to, where it's like, we won't know until we try. So
Mhm.
you're a perfect example of that. You've tried it a little bit here and a little bit there, and you're still forward thinking and looking to see where else you can leverage it. That being said, I always like to ask the question, if you could put a warning label on AI, what would it be that would never be in a pitch deck?
Um,
And a good example, I've heard multiple things, but one gentleman said, "Warning: AI may expose, gaps in workflows and leadership shortcomings," or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably so true. Because you design a workflow and then think it's going to act like this, and it's like, oh wow, we've probably not been performing very well in that area
Yeah,
based on that
yeah,
execution. You know what, the other thing area I would say is to really understand your demographic. And by that, if you know that you have members that are comfortable with their online banking technology, with the chat, feature and function. They're digital, they're on their, desktops and laptops all the time. That's a different demographic than the individual who wants to come into the branch every Friday with
right.
coffee and to make their deposit or get their cash for the weekend or do whatever it is they want to do. So I think you introduce it into those streams of work where you're going to have better acceptance.
Yeah, that's a great point. It doesn't matter necessarily what a company wants to do. Like, okay, we have AI initiatives, great. How is this going to be not only adopted internally and accepted internally, but by your customers? It's like,
Right.
we may think that this AI is a great idea and it'll be, the outcomes are going to look great, but how's that going to be received by your customer base?
If you can employ a customer base either through an advisory board or just through survey and, testing things out, including them in a pilot, that's even better.
Do you have anything you're working on that you want to promote or talk about? Are you going to be at any events that, people could find you at, or anything exciting?
Yeah, I am speaking at a CX event for financial services at the end of May, early June. And so what's nice about that is that all of this excitement that I have, there are other peers of mine in the same industry that will be at that event, and I can learn from their ideas as well. So
Yeah.
I told our leadership development team that every day you can read an article about AI in order to continue to learn the evolution and stay on top of what is going on. And I
Yeah,
mean, it's crossing over into everyone's personal lives too. It's
it
not
is.
not just in the work place. And so you've got to be informed about what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. It changes every single day. The trends that I saw even last year at Customer Contact Week, CCW, which that's in June, the Vegas one, changed even from June to October, where there was CCW Nashville. I mean, it's changing so rapidly that what you learned yesterday may not even be the same, or it could have evolved since then.
It's a brand new world.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been wonderful. And I know that there's a lot that people can learn from you in finance, in the financial industry, but also outside of it.
Well, thank you. That's nice of you to say. I don't know about that, but I loved talking to you, Kate. It's always fun to talk about AI and any topics with you. So have a great day.